So I'm here in Premiere Pro, and I have a finished project open. I just want to use this project real quick to show you how Premiere is laid out. So in our default layout, we have 4 windows. The first is our project window in the bottom left. And if your project window isn't selected, you can hit this double arrow and then find project. The project window is where all of our footage lives. We imported our footage here and we've organized it into folders. And then if I go into one of these folders and I double click on a clip, it'll bring it up in our source monitor. You can think of the source monitor as a preview monitor. We can watch our footage here. We can choose a place for the clip to start and end. And then we can pull that clip into our timeline. So in our timeline window, we can see all of our clips laid out in the order that they'll appear in the video. We can move them around. We can layer them on top of each other. This is really where everything happens. This is where we're going to structure our narrative, where we're going to create our videos. Whatever is in the timeline panel is shown in our program monitor. So this is kind of like what our output is going to be. So let's go back to the timeline monitor. So we have this kind of double line here that's separating our video tracks from our audio tracks. V123, those are video tracks. A123, etc., those are audio tracks. The way that video tracks work is whatever is on top is what you're going to see. So this clip here is on top of another clip in the video track. If I delete this clip, then we'll see whatever is below it. The way audio tracks work is you can stack them on top of each other. So we have a bunch of audio clips here. We've got some a voiceover, some music, and a bunch of sound effects. We're going to hear all of those as they're played back. They'll just layer on top of each other.
Innovators, experts, brave beginners.
And again, you can have as many or as few audio tracks as necessary. So this is what a finished project can look like. Again, with some footage, with a bunch of audio tracks. But let's jump out of here now and let's start a new project. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is copy over our footage. So I'm going to go to Desktop, and I want to create a folder structure here that we're going to use for the entire class. So I'm going to right click, New, Folder, and I'm going to call this IDM W17. That just stands for Intro to Digital Media Winter 17. Click into there. I'm going to create a folder that's just my last name. And then I'll make a new folder that will be just the title of the project that we're working on. So let's use for this one the BDC lobby. And then in here I'm going to create a footage folder. And we may as well go ahead and create a Premiere folder as well. So the footage folder is where we'll store all of our clips that we shot, and the Premiere folder is where we'll store our project file. So then I have a memory card plugged in and I want to copy over my clips from there. So I want to keep this folder open. I'm going to hit Control-N and pull up a new window, and then I'll go in and I'll find those clips. So I know that my memory card is called USB drive. It's probably going to be called SDXC when you plug yours in. So I'm going to click into Private, M4 Root, and then Clip. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that these are sorted by type. We only need the MP4 files, but every MP4 file has an XML document associated with it. We don't need those. So if I sort by type, then it will separate those. And I can click on my first clip, hold down Shift, and click on my last clip, press Control-C to copy them. And then I'm going to go into my footage folder, and you can either right click and paste, or you can Control-V to paste those clips right there. Now when you open up your footage folder on your memory card, if you have thumbnails like this, and you want to separate out the file types, it's easier to click on this button down here and turn it into a list. Okay, so our clips have copied over. I'm going to close out of this, and then I'm going to go ahead and open up Premiere Pro. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create a new project, and let's pretend like we're working on that BDC lobby project. So I'm going to do BDC lobby and then my last name, and I want to browse, And then I want to go find that folder where I created the Premiere folder. So IDM W17, Riffy, BDC Lobby, and then Premiere. So I'm going to select that folder, and then I'm going to say OK. Okay, so here we have our project window, we have our source monitor, our program monitor, and our timeline. Now it looks really empty right now because we don't have any footage in here or any sequences. So I'm going to pull in footage from a different project just for the sake of showing you something. And so what I'm going to do is I have this folder here. This was from the artist in residence visit. I'm just going to pull this entire footage folder into my project window. And it's going to take a minute to import these files. Okay, so our folder has been imported now. It's in our project window. And I have mine laid out so that it shows a list of the clips. Yours might by default show thumbnails. You can change that by clicking on this button down here. I personally like to see a list. It keeps all of the folders together in one window, and it's really easy to navigate through these, click on them, and bring them up in this monitor up here. If you prefer thumbnails, that's fine, but if you double click on this folder, it's going to create a new window, and you'll need to grab the bin. That's what these folders are called. You need to grab the bin by its name and then drop it into the project window down here. It's actually going to create a new window, so your project window will have all of your folders in it, but this bin is just the footage that was in that one folder, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go back to my list view because I really prefer that. The reason is if I have multiple footage folders, I want to be able to see them all at once. I don't want to have to be navigating back and forth between different bins. So again, we can select a clip and it'll show up in our source monitor. And I'm just going to randomly set an in point and an out point. To do that, I'm going to hit I on the keyboard, and that's where my clip is going to begin. It's going to ignore everything else before that, and then I'm going to play it forward a little bit. And then I'll set an out point here by hitting O on the keyboard. So now this highlighted section, that's the only part of the clip that we're going to use. I'm going to click and drag in the middle of the clip and then drag it into this drop media here to create sequence. And it's automatically going to create a sequence for us that is perfectly matched to the settings of our footage. That sequence showed up over here. It's got this little logo next to it. A footage logo has a film strip and a little audio waveform. And the sequence has, I guess those are some clips stacked on top of each other. I don't want to lose the sequence. Right now it's just called the same thing that the clip is called. I want to change the name of that, and I'm going to call it SEQ-cut1. And there's my sequence now. So then I'll go in and I'll find another clip. The sequence isn't going to make much sense, but I'll set an in point, and then I'll set an out point, and I'll drag this in as well. Again, in point, out point, and then we just start to build a sequence here. And then if we play it back in our timeline monitor, we'll see it up in our program monitor. So a few keyboard shortcuts that we're going to want to remember. To play something forward, we hit spacebar. If we want to view footage in reverse, we can hit J on the keyboard. That's sometimes useful for navigating around your sequence. If we want to go forward, we can also hit L instead of spacebar. And if we hit L again, it'll speed it up. And you can hit that L or J multiple times and it'll get faster each time. Those same keystrokes also work in the source monitor. So spacebar to play, L to go forward, L multiple times to go forward faster, J to go backward, J multiple times to go faster backward. Inside of our sequence, we have a bunch of different tools that we can use. You can see them here. We have a selection tool, which we have selected currently. And with this, you can select a clip. You can drag a marquee and select multiple clips. You can select a clip and hit delete on the keyboard or backspace to get rid of it. I'm going to Control Z to undo that. You can select a clip and move it. You can hover over the edge of a clip and this red bracket with an arrow will show up, and then you can drag the clip out or in to change the duration of it. And of course we can pull a clip down into our sequence using the selection tool. The selection tool, if you hover over any of these tools here, you'll see what the keyboard shortcut for it is. So if I'm on another tool and I hit V, see how that's in parentheses there? If I hit V, it'll go to my selection tool. Memorizing a few of these keystrokes is going to make your editing process much more efficient. Another really useful tool is our zoom tool. So if we click on that, or if we hit Z on the keyboard, and then we click here, we can make these clips bigger. So that if we wanted to make a really precise edit, and we wanted to see really up close what was happening, we could hit that Z tool to get way in close. And we could also hit Alt on the keyboard with our zoom tool, and a minus sign will come up inside the magnifying glass, and then we can click and make this smaller. We can also change the size of these clips in the timeline by scrolling outward to make them smaller down here, and clicking and dragging inward to make them bigger. Another tool that we're going to use a lot is the razor tool. So we can hit C on the keyboard, or we can click on it over here. And with this selected, we can make a cut on our footage. So now we've turned this into 2 clips, and you can see the cut right there. And then we could delete one of these, delete the other one. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on this linked selection setting right here. And if I do that, then my audio track and my video track will stay together. So if I make a cut on my video track, it will also make a cut on my audio track. And then I can delete this part of it. So again, to delete, just use your selection tool and then press delete or backspace. Next to the linked selection option, we also have another useful tool, this magnet here. When it's on, and you can tell it's on because it turns blue, when I make a cut anywhere near my playhead, which is this blue line that shows us where we are in the video, if I make a cut anywhere near here, it's going to automatically make that cut on top of the playhead. That's really useful. If it's off and I make a cut somewhere near the playhead, it won't necessarily snap to that playhead. So that's what this is called. It's called snap, and we want to keep that on the vast majority of the time. Same thing if it's off and we try to pull down a clip, it won't automatically snap it to the edge here of this other clip. It might leave a small gap, and then we'll have to go in there and delete that. But when it's on, then we pull this down here and it automatically snaps to the edge of that clip, leaving no gap in between. The last tool that we'll use quite a bit is our track select forward tool. That's A on the keyboard, and what that does is if you click on a clip, it will select that clip plus anything that happens after it. So in this case, it's just 2 clips. And then it's really useful because we can move those clips over, and then if we want to, we can pull a new clip into the space here. And then a really handy tool, we can select this blank space, hit delete on the keyboard, and it will close the gap for us. So let's watch our little sequence real quick by pressing spacebar. Okay, so that's all we're going to look at today. We're going to get into a lot more of what Premiere can do later on, but for now, that's all we need to start organizing our projects. The last thing we need to do is go File and Save, and remember to save these projects often. We don't want to lose any progress that we make. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions.